I'm Karen Siegemund, and I'm a baby boomer conservative.
George Rasley, and I'm a baby boomer conservative.
Frank Gaffney, and I'm a baby boomer conservative.
I'm Harrison Smith, and I'm a millennial conservative.
Primetime Alex Stein, and I'm a millennial conservative.
Owen Shroyer, I'm a millennial, three-time Trump voter, and America First nationalist.
My name is Brandon Straka. I'm tonight's moderator, and it's none of your business how old I am. Tonight, we're going to do something that most people in this movement are too afraid to do. We're going to tell the truth about ourselves, the conservative movement. There is a deep and significant fracture inside the right, and it's getting worse. This growing divide is over what loyalty means, what truth means, and what conservative identity means. And it's not only cultural, it's generational. If you're a baby boomer, there's a good chance you have a vastly different stance than millennials, Gen Xers, or Gen Z on many important relevant issues going on now, like the war in Iran, America's relationships with foreign allies, the stability of MAGA, the affordability crisis, AI, and a lot more. Tonight is about dragging the generational divide out into the open and debating all of these topics, whether it's uncomfortable or not. It's about putting the tension on the table and figuring out whether this movement can evolve. And can this be fixed? We're calling this a dinner table debate, meaning we're going to keep it open forum. You are allowed to interrupt each other. You are allowed to keep the passion flowing. I'll interject if anything crosses a line or becomes disrespectful. The only exception to that rule is going to be this first question, in which I ask that everybody agree not to interrupt and to allow each panelist their turn without any interjection. So let's begin the conversation by identifying how the generations are feeling about each other. I'm going to start with the millennials and then give the baby boomers the final word. We'll go one by one, each panelist getting 1 minute to answer the same question. Starting with you, Alex, what about the boomer generation is problematic for the success of the conservative movement going forward?
In my personal opinion, one of my biggest complaints about the boomer generation is their lack of self-awareness. You know, this is a generation that was able to buy a home. They were able to have access to a lot of things that we're not currently able to have access to. They didn't have to compete with illegal immigrants for jobs. And I think that it is really boiled down to a fact that they didn't have access to the same information that our generation did because they got the internet so much later in life. And the example that I like to use is like my dad. I've grown up in Dallas, Texas my whole entire life. And if I tell my dad that the CIA was involved in JFK's assassination, he almost wants to hit me because he doesn't believe in conspiracies. But then I talk about the Vietnam War and I bring up the Gulf of Tonkin, which was a false flag attack that brought us into a war that killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people, you know, in a war that he was almost drafted into. He just doesn't understand that because he doesn't know how to work the internet properly. And so I think it is just the lack of self-awareness for the America that they used to live in is gone. It's not the same one that we're in right now. And the fact that they have a lack of information that young people like myself were able to get.
Harrison?
I think we need to work together. I know it's supposed to be a debate. I feel like there should be a call to action for the boomers because I think Alex is right that there's a disconnect with the younger people, and I think the biggest problem with the boomers, if that's the question, it's the holding on and the hoarding of power, and that there's not been a good enough job done of passing power on. I mean, we don't even have Gen X here, right? They aren't even represented. So we've skipped right over them. Now the millennials are waiting for our turn. It's almost like Gen X never got the turn. It's almost like the boomers that got into office in the 60s are still there, still running things, and haven't actually like cultivated that younger generation to replace them and to pick up the reins. And so that causes resentment in the younger generation, which is of course returned, I think, from the boomers because they feel it and spit it right back. So yeah, it seems like the boomer mentality that I hear a lot that gets on people's nerves is, you guys should have seen this place when we got here. It was a paradise, you know?
I would echo the access and the influence that Harrison is talking about, where I think millennials feel like they're kind of getting cut out of the deal. And what I would use the current example of what's happening on the right wing right now. If you want to use a specific example, if you talk about any war, but in this case the Iran war, the younger generations are done. They are anti-war. They vote against wars. This has been proven in multiple election cycles. And it feels like here's the millennials. We just put this administration in the White House. We put Republicans in charge of Congress. And it's like, okay, we did that. And then what do we get? We get right back to the same boomer foreign policies. We get right back to the same boomer policies. And now we're sitting here saying, well, wait a second. We're the ones that got this administration in power. Why aren't we getting represented? And I feel like it's different when you say that to maybe a 20-year-old and you say, hey, you're still young, you have experience. We're in our 30s now. We've come of age now. We are about to inherit this country now, and we feel like with every election cycle, what we're inheriting is getting less and less. The civilization is declining, and we're simply saying, hey, we've come of age. This is what we voted for, and we're not getting it. And so I think that that's the generational divide.
All right, same question for the boomers. What about the millennial generation is problematic for the success of the conservative movement going forward?
Well, I think that the biggest problem is that too many millennials and younger generation alleged conservatives have adopted the rhetoric and much of the views of the left. And so there's an expectation on the part of younger people that they're going to arrive at the top where their parents left them when they kicked them out of the nest. And to those who think that this is not a meritocracy, that boomers are hoarding onto power and all of that kind of stuff, that's a classic leftist trope. And so, in my view, the biggest problem that millennials and younger people present to the movement is this demand for access. And my question to them, or my challenge to them, is do what I did. Go out and take it.
It's a funny question because I think over all time, the younger people have always felt that the older people had something that they didn't have access to, and the older people think that the younger people have greater expectations than maybe they should have. I think the whole notion of a gap between generations, this is so not new, that it's having an effect on the current political climate is particularly interesting. But having been a teacher and seeing a lot of millennials, I think there's so much that's being broken deliberately for you all coming through. I don't know that I would call it the affordability problem or whatever, but I think expectations have been given to you that aren't necessarily fair.
Time.
Well, so much more to
But
say.
we have a lot more. We have a lot more time. Frank, go ahead.
These are, of course, sweeping generalizations, but the question is teed up that way. My biggest concern is that the millennial generation has embraced the idea that the world is irrelevant. It's about us. It's about the sharing of power, distribution of it, controlling it. My fear is, as was mentioned, you are about to inherit a very messy world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not with us in trying to make it more consistent with our vital security interests and freedoms, it's not going to be recoverable, I fear. And that's what makes me most worried about the next generation's handoff here.
The America First side of the political spectrum has taken a much firmer stance on H-1B visas compared to the Trump administration. Many of them want to send all H-1B workers back to their home country and terminate the program, while the Trump administration is expanding it. Let's take a look. The graphic on the screen shows the disparity in income between the wages of American citizens and the wages of H-1B visa holders along a spectrum of multiple professions. So which direction is more likely to help the American people?
Well, I think that the graph is a pretty telling story right there. And I think that this gets back to the conversation where I just feel like boomers never dealt with this. I feel like boomers never dealt with a job market that was inflated by foreigners. And this is where I think that millennials are a little more resentful to the Republican Party, even spiteful and contentious, you might say, is because we continue to get screwed over on this thing. Trump was supposed to be different, and he's going right back to the same neocon boomer policies that have been angering my generation since we've gotten out of college. And so you just see it again. They say one thing, they do the complete opposite. And to us, it's like, why are you doing this to us again? And it doesn't matter if you're a left-wing millennial, a right-wing millennial. We're all having to deal with this.
Into this, because I think one of the main reasons I wanted to do this conversation is when we look at the generational divide, that piece of the divide that's happening in MAGA right now, what I find, and obviously I'm generalizing, is that it seems like within the boomer generation, there is a lot of resistance to any sort of criticism of Trump. And I don't really understand that. So I'll let you guys speak for yourselves here, but what is your position on that when we talk about, Trump wanting to expand the H-1B program?
Well, here's the thing. I think that there's a little bit of confusion here between the conservative movement or movement conservatism and MAGA. MAGA is a marriage of convenience between a lot of different interests that came together to elect Donald Trump to enact certain policies that they all sort of agreed on. And they are justifiably pissed because Trump has walked away from some of those things, or at least not got them done as fast as he said he would during the campaign. The conservative movement is an entirely different thing. It is based on a set of principles that Trump has, a very limited, affinity for, but essentially, Judeo-Christian values, government informed by the Declaration of Independence, implemented by the Constitution, classical economics, free market economics, and I would suggest also the lessons of World War II and the Cold War regarding threats to our freedom.
George,
and
where is this Trumpless conservative movement that you're referring to? I'm not seeing.
I think it's over here, I would say.
Okay.
I would say too.
I was going to say it's right here.
There were two things.
Yeah.
Well, there were two things that you said, and I'm curious if we can expand on these things that I know we are sick of. I think I speak for most of our generation. Judeo-Christian values, just please toss that out of the ring if we're talking politics. I don't even want to hear it. And as far as World War II is concerned, are we ever going to move on? Can we ever have a country and a foreign policy that isn't tied into the results of World War II?
Yes, I think that's...
Why not?
I think that's key.
That's ridiculous.
That is right. That's the definition of boomer, right? It's the baby boomers after the war. It's as soon as the war is over is when that generation starts. So, in a way, I sort of feel for you guys in that you were the most affected by the change of attitude after the war in every different way. And one of the main ways was a major focus on removing race from the conversation. I feel like when you talk about immigration, to me, race has a lot to do with it. And I feel like boomers were so indoctrinated throughout their childhood, right after World War II, it was racism is the big evil, that becomes an issue because other races like the Indian, when we talk about H-1Bs, Indians have a very strong, group in America that is operating on a racial basis. Yeah. And I feel like one of the biggest weaknesses of the boomer generation that allowed America to become weak was that part of humanity, of the human experience, has been ignored. And anytime I try to talk about race to boomers, it's the boomers who will get very uncomfortable and very reticent to ever bring that up. And I feel like that's, again, it's
Is the boomer generation weak?
I think.
Is it a weak generation?
I would say that they allowed incrementally their country to be stolen from them, and we're sort of constantly. It's what's the problem with the guy? This guy. I mean, he's a great worker. It's fine. And it's okay, his whole family's coming, and okay, well now his whole neighborhood has changed, and okay now, and so it's you have to sort of be more hardcore and go. I don't care if it's mean. It's our country. You can't have it. Well. And I feel like boomers are weak in that regard.
That's a view that's universally shared by millennials. I haven't seen any sign of that.
Well, I would say that the people that are mad at Donald Trump are people like myself. When a guy that I debated for, a guy that I voted for 3 times, said that he was going to deport all these illegals, and yet he's deported less people than Barack Obama,
Right.
a guy that we all don't like. And then if you actually kind of look at the conspiracy behind that, it's because he has all these multinational corporations in his ear basically calling the shots when he says at the beginning of his presidency, well, you know, the hotel workers, they get to stay, it's no big deal. So, yeah, I do think that they are being, and, you know, like I said, I like Donald Trump, but he's been incredibly weak when it comes to immigration. When he campaigned that he was going to build a wall, they can't find any money to build a wall. They can't find, you know, any solution to the SAVE Act. So it seems like if he really was authoritarian, like the left describes him, he would be able to do all this stuff that he said he was going to do.
Right.
Or if the wall was on the other side of the planet, we could build it like that.
Yeah.
This question, though, because this is a point on which I vehemently agree.
Yes.
We've witnessed on our watch, yes, probably not because of conservatives, but because of the left and the establishment, Republicans particularly, this incremental boiling of the frog.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this is where,
Powerful thing.
to answer the
Do you
question.
agree with that? I mean,
well, I think
you, Harrison, obviously, but is
Yeah.
that speaking for millennials?
Well, let me try to rephrase it and go back to what you said. When I said we don't want to hear about this post-World War II foreign policy anymore, he said, no, we can't move on. And we're sitting here ripping our hair out. We're like, why? Why can we never move on? Why do I have to sit here and hear about blacks are victims, Jews are victims? I'm sick of it. Why? What are we doing here? Foreign policy, Russia is the boogeyman? Am I stuck in the Cold War?
How do those two things have to do with each other?
Because this is
World War
it. This
II
is the
and
grasp that we can't get rid of.
Different things, though.
But it's not. It's overall. It's everything. It's everything. We're sitting here saying we all agree the country's going the wrong way. We all agree we've incrementally watched our country get stolen. Millennials are saying let's do it differently, and the boomers keep doing the same thing over and
Oh
over.
no, hold it. I disagree with that totally. I
Yes,
mean, this
I
is
do
what
too.
this is why I talk. I've said this before a million times. There's too many people, especially millennials, who think that history started in 2015 when Donald Trump came down the escalator. And all of these issues that you're bitching about have been fought time and time and time again.
And we thought Trump was going to be different. That's what we're saying. And it was the same thing.
By the way, so did we.
So did we.
So to your point,
we're all
I
sick
think
of
about immigration, right? But
No.
immigration is not only damaging, but it's also a betrayal. Right? And that's you're suffering the effects economically, the financial effects of that horrific chart. That's very real, but I think we're all really suffering a sense of this was, you know, in parlance, this is not what we voted for. But there's a lot of things that we voted for that weren't happening, but certainly getting rid of all illegals and a lot of legals and people who are, you know, here under false pretenses, people who are here literally potential terrorists, not to mention the whole job situation, and who have completely changed the fabric, the complexion, and I don't care about race, but the entire, if your belief system, you don't like the Judeo-Christian language, but if you're a counter to Judeo-Christian values and you're here and you're imposing your set of worldviews on it and you've taken over town after town, that's a problem.
Who's doing that?
Jihadists,
Where?
Sharia supremacists.
Where?
Right
here.
here.
I don't have Muslims telling me anything to do in Texas. I've lived in Texas more than 10 years, and Muslims never told me anything to do.
Stand by.
I have laws in this state that I can't boycott Israel. I have laws in this state against anti-Semitism. Who's writing those laws?
You're going to be finding more and more. This is why 1.9 million Texans in that Republican primary voted to ban Sharia law.
But Frank, this is your
Because
fault.
that's what they're
This is your fault because you remember after 9/11 when there was a huge issue of whether or not they could build a mosque at the center of the
I was
terror
at the
attack?
center of that.
I know. So
controversy.
I'm saying
It's not my fault.
I'm saying they built the mosque there, right?
They did not build the mosque there.
Well, regardless.
Not able to build the mosque because we stopped it.
Yeah.
But they are working hard to build mosques.
But I'm saying we saw this 20 years ago and we didn't stop it.
Now we've got Mamdani running the frickin'
I know.
So, but
I know,
hold on a second,
So this
but
is
hold
my
on a second.
problem.
That's not
This is my
on
problem.
us.
Is that,
But who-
is
That
that
would be-
Donald Trump?
Yeah, who-
Donald
Isn't this
generation
selectively enforcing the First Amendment?
You bet they are.
Well, so you're the ones that are against Muslims.
I am against Sharia and the imposition of it on us because it's not only contrary to Christian
But that's not happening.
civilization, You are not paying attention.
You're the ones that want to talk
You
about
are not
Judeo-Christian values all day long and use our whole military in the Middle East for Israel. And you want to talk about Muslim influence? We're done. We don't buy it.
All right, and going back to what I said to you before. You are going to reap the whirlwind if we don't
Of what?
sort it out. Of a world in which jihadis are here and are running.
And why are they here? Why are they here?
This is a false dichotomy.
Why are they here? They're here because we're in the Middle East destroying the Middle East. We've destroyed the Middle East.
No, it's bullshit.
No, we haven't destroyed the Middle East. How's the Middle East doing right now?
I'm talking about
How many countries are being bombed in the Middle East right now?
About this country. You just suggested that they're here because we've screwed up the Middle East. They've screwed up the Middle East, and now they're screwing up Europe, and they're here.
When did they come here?
They're in the process of screwing this up.
And when did that happen? This has all happened while we were kids. We watched all of this happen.
This has been happening since Henry Ford started bringing Palestinian and other Arab workers to run those factories.
But that was never an issue. The issue now is that
Because
there's
they
very
were not
large
jihadists.
there's very large numbers of
Muslim Brotherhood,
ethnic sort of
Sharia supremacists,
Sure.
Somalis, and others who are here to destroy our country.
Sure.
Don't
I agree.
But allow
Do you believe the official story of 9/11?
Attention to it, you're not.
Do you believe 9/11? Do you believe the official narrative?
I believe 9/11 was an attack by.
You're not answering the question. Answer the question, yes or no. Do you believe the official government narrative of 9/11?
I believe that Sharia.
So no, the answer is no, but you don't want to admit that because if you admit that, you admit everything that's followed that is based on a
I don't
lie.
know what you're saying about.
Like Muhammad Atta.
What are you talking about?
He did cocaine. He was with strippers. Do you think he was really like a religious zealot?
I am perfectly prepared to accept that. Yes.
That he was a religious guy?
I am perfectly prepared to accept that religious guys do that sort of thing.
But he was
Way
from
to
Saudi.
paradise.
I'm saying, but he was from Saudi
On their
Arabia.
way to paradise.
I know, but he was from Saudi Arabia, and then we go.
So what
and,
do you
Egyptian.
believe? What is the narrative that you believe?
Well, I believe that Condoleezza Rice and George Bush had, knowledge of the attacks before. They were warned by the FBI. They didn't.
What about
take
Howard Lutnick, too?
I'm saying they didn't take the threat serious enough. So that's just the official story. If you want to get into the conspiracy side of it, the majority of the hijackers are from Saudi Arabia, who was an ally of ours. And then if you look at what happened, they use that.
Ally of ours.
Well, I mean, they're
Let's
soft.
be honest, it's not.
Yeah,
an ally.
particularly back then.
Well, we do a lot of
Sharia
business.
supremacists.
We do a lot of business with Saudi Arabia, but I'm saying we never invaded Saudi Arabia.
And Qatar. And
But I'm saying we never invaded Saudi Arabia. When we went to Afghanistan, they weren't from there. And if you look at the Mujahideen was created as a proxy group to fight the Russians. You can watch a movie called Charlie Wilson's War that we funded this. So I'm just saying we funded the Mujahideen, and guess who was connected to that? Osama bin Laden. So at one point, Osama bin Laden.
worked with them.
I know. I'm saying so we worked with the guy that blew us up. It sounds awfully convenient, is what I'm
Worked
saying.
with them against the Russians.
I know. And then all of a sudden he just attacked us. It's just the story. It doesn't pass the smell test.
It doesn't pass the physics test.
He was consistently pursuing a Sharia supremacist.
Then why did we support
look,
him? Why did we give him money?
Convenience.
Regardless of all that,
Defending
We
it.
went
hold on.
with
That's
the
why we did
Soviet
it
Union
together.
against
instead of this devolving into an argument about 9/11.
Which I'm enjoying, by the way.
The upshot of that is that at the elementary school near my house, Travis Heights Elementary in Austin, we have such an influx of Afghans, they're teaching classes in Pashtun, and American kids can't get education.
Patriots, this month the WalkAway campaign turns 8 years old, and in the last 8 years, we have gotten more than 1 million people to join us in the WalkAway movement. Over 100,000 people have submitted their written and video testimonials sharing their stories about why they're walking away from the divisive anti-American Democrat Party. But we're just getting started. We're going to continue crossing the country from coast to coast, going into college campuses, talking to impressionable young people, talking to black voters, Hispanic voters, LGBT people, Jewish people, and all Americans who have ever been indoctrinated by the divisive Marxist Democrat Party. We're going to wake up and liberate everybody and get everyone to walk away, but we need your help. If you support the work that we do, please go to walkawaycampaign.com, click donate, and if you can't make a monthly recurring donation, please give one time. But if you're able to, please become a monthly recurring supporter. Even $1 a month helps drive our mission forward. So please help if you can. Go to walkawaycampaign.com and please donate.
So they're here because we went to war in the Middle East.
In jihad as well.
But they wouldn't be here if we didn't go to Afghanistan and blow up their country, and then we brought them all back with us.
Some of them would have been, but not like
Maybe, but not
from
not
everywhere.
like Biden brought in legally.
Sure, not to the
And all of
degree
them
that we would have.
basically were jihadists. They were not people who helped us in Afghanistan.
Is every Muslim a jihadist?
Not everyone, but plenty of them are. And the ones who aren't, you know what they call them? Apostates.
But can we not?
The problem with that is
oppose both
you
these
get
things?
killed, so they don't do much to help.
So I think that the reason the 9/11 conversation is important is because I think the biggest difference between us, we're all on the right side politically, I think the biggest difference is foreign policy. And quite frankly, if we're talking about conservative principles, then our foreign policy is the farthest thing from conservative. Because here's what we have witnessed. We have witnessed in our life, our downtowns, our metropolitan areas, our civilization. We have watched everything decay in our lives. That's what we've witnessed in front of our eyes, to the point now he's talking about you can't even go to a school, they don't even speak English. You don't even want to go downtown, you might get mugged. But you know what has been happening while we've been watching our civilization decline? We've watched other civilizations around the world basically start from nothing to become nicer than ours, all over the Gulf nation states. And you know where all of our blood and treasure has gone? Into the Middle East. And you know where our foreign policy remains? Stuck in the Cold War era. And there's nothing conservative about it. We have not benefited at all from it. And that's why we're ready to just rip the cord. We want a total divorce, and we believe that is going to solve all the problems that we're talking about here, because we've tried it your way, and all it's done is cause the problem.
It appears that the current administration is softening its stance on deportations.
700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals.
Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people who are getting out. And we have a lot of heart. They said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And we're looking to get the criminals out right now.
Seems like a drastically different stance than he had before. Does this worry you?
Yes.
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 And
And
that
what's
was,
going on?
That was one of the first instances where I was prepared to walk away from Donald Trump after working my tail off in 3 elections and putting a lot of time, effort, blood, treasure, etc., into getting him reelected. To see him back off from that was beyond disappointing.
Why do you think it's happening?
I'm going to agree with my millennial friends over here that it is the influence of big business. And I've seen it in my home state of Florida, where we have the Disney company firing 2,000 American creators and technicians and hiring 2,000 foreigners and demanding that the Americans train them.
Right.
Is that what you think?
Well,
the reason is?
I can't disagree. I mean, that is just observably true. And I think Trump has all but admitted it without putting it into words. But I think that if you look at this from like a domino effect, why is he saying we need a softer touch? Why has there been this issue getting the illegals out of the country? And I think you kind of have to go back and look at the larger administration and Pam Bondi, who I think has been maybe the biggest letdown of the administration. She was supposed to shut down these organizations. She was supposed to shut down the organizers and the funders. She didn't do it. So they got all these protesters out on the street. Now you got 2 of them dead. They try to go do a deportation operation in, you name it, Minnesota, wherever, and now they're out on the streets. They're disrupting it. And so now the Trump administration is sitting here with 2 dead bodies saying, fuck. What are we going to do? Just call it off. There's nothing else we can do. And so I go back, and I'm not trying to get stuck in a foreign policy rut, but I think it applies. Again, I'm saying, where can we get things done? We can get things done in every other country in the world. No problem. It's all getting done. Money, manpower, resources, equipment, you name it. We got it. But if we want to do a mass deportation here, sorry, can't help you. Can't even get the protesters off the streets.
We got war in Iran before we deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's
Yeah.
where we're at in this country.
And one thing for me, it's like, you know, I love the Constitution, and I believe in our right to protest, but it seems like this administration is more worried about anti-Semitism on college campuses than they are about people getting raped, like Lake and Riley. And you would think that that would be, you know, a little higher on their priority list than kids protesting and holding a sign that maybe it is anti-Semitic, but at the end of the day, we do have the First Amendment, we have right to, you know, freedom of speech, and it seems like they're taking away our rights to protect a certain group when they should be protecting all of us by kicking out these illegal immigrants. And the jihadis, we want them gone too, but it just doesn't seem like the administration is focused on that. They're focused on very narrow things that actually don't benefit the Americans that voted for them.
Yeah, but that's what really worries me, I got to tell you, is those
protests
jihadis that got in here.
But is protesting?
Millions over those open borders.
Well, Frank, let me ask you this.
Perhaps, just one more point. Perhaps as many as 200,000 Chinese soldiers who got in. I haven't heard a word from the administration about deporting any of those people. They're not even
in fact,
on
to the
list of
contrary,
priorities, let alone getting out.
we brought up the 600,000 students who are here, and I believe Donald Trump first said this is terrible. 300,000, sorry.
And then he said he's going to give them a green card on their diploma.
Then he was going to double it.
Right.
But what was that about? That was all a part of the financial negotiations with China that had to do with forcing them to sell TikTok because they weren't censoring the Palestinian videos.
It's all deal making in the most peculiar.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
But that was a big.
Well, but see that. But that's another.
Coming back to my point of what is MAGA, it is a
been
marriage
hijacked.
of convenience between various interest groups, and it's falling apart
Yes.
not because of anything that conservative boomers did or did not do. It's falling apart because President Trump is walking away from some of those core commitments that he made.
Well, and your
And-
original question said America first was this and Trump was that. You already in your question separated America first from Trump, which was, that's not how it was supposed to be at all. He was supposed to be the leader of America first. And we're
And
back
he says
to the.
he is.
And
But I
he,
think-
and he says he is.
But I think that's where it goes to
not.
what Owen is pointing out, that when it comes to overseas stuff, when it comes to
Yeah.
anti-Semitism, there's no barriers. Everything gets done
Right.
immediately with alacrity.
bipartisan.
Nobody even stands up against it. But if it's anything that's going to benefit Americans, it's suddenly we have to have a soft touch. We have to be careful about that. Well, do we really want to do this?
Look at the SAVE
So-
Act.
so
Any
there's-
of it durable, though? Have we seen, a lasting and ideological commitment to any of those things?
No,
Like the
and I think that-
anti-Semitism,
and I-
no.
well,
All
and-
of these things,
And obviously,
they've come and gone.
Trump is making his own decisions. I can't blame every boomer in America for
Thank
what Trump is doing.
Yeah.
Obviously,
He is a
but
boomer, but he is
he is a boomer.
He's the
but
king of the
but he
boomers.
is a boomer, and he's surrounded by boomers, and he's making deals with boomers. And so, again,
That
can't
is true.
You can't blame everybody for that. But I don't know.
Listening to kids.
But it's like,
He's very
Steve,
much
we're not
listening to kids.
No, he's not anymore.
Well,
He's
when-
not.
when
He's-
it
he's
comes to going on a
completely tossed us
podcast, he
overboard.
listens to
He
kids,
wanted to
but
talk to
I
us
don't know.
when we would vote for him, and then as soon as he got any overthrew all the agreements he made with our generation. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the OK Boomer meme. It was kind of a popular thing in pop culture. You may have seen it. But that's what this is. It's like, OK Boomer, here we go again. It's like, OK Boomer, here we go again. OK Boomer, you believe the official narrative of 9/11. It's like, OK, you believe the official moon landing. It's just like, oh my gosh, OK Boomer, oh. It's like, can we ever move on? Like, can we ever do something for our country? We're sick of this same policy, no matter who's in power.
Which policy are you talking about that you're sick of?
World War II.
Exactly. But
I'm stuck in a post-World War II world.
Christian
I'm stuck in a post-World War II world where I have to sit here and act like every Jew is the biggest victim on the planet. I'm stuck in a post-Cold War foreign policy where Russia is still the boogeyman. None of this stuff makes sense. In fact, quite frankly, and this might be a little controversial for you, but I truly believe if we divorced completely with the Middle East and just got completely out of the Middle East and actually formed a partnership with Russia, I think that would be the most beneficial thing for our country today.
Well, to
I
Owen's-
truly believe that.
To Owen's point, well, I just want to say this, and it looks like Trump does want to get out of this Iran war, but I think that would be the best strategy to get out of it if Trump did make a deal with Putin, who is a big ally with Iran, and somehow simultaneously ended the Ukraine war and this war at the same time. I think that would be the best way to get out of this quagmire that we're currently in.
We've teamed with them before, and when they were far worse than Putin, right? We allied with Stalin, if I may be so bold as to bring up World War II. So we've allied with people who aren't our friends, because the enemy of our enemy can well be our ally in a particular with a particular focus. Is Putin interested in this?
Yes.
Yeah, he's been more receptive
Since the
than
90s.
Zelensky, according to Trump.
Well, what Putin says is that he sort of routinely, after they were stabilized and everything, he would talk to presidents and say, why can't Russia just be another European country? Can we join you guys? And the president would say, you're right, you should. And then, as Putin puts it, the men in gray suits would come and say, no, we're not doing that.
And that's because NATO takes our money. And Trump talks about this all the time, but he won't do anything about it. NATO has raked us over the coals for billions of dollars. And that's why they wanted to keep Russia as our enemy. And of course, the United States, they get a little benefactor too with whatever insider deals that they do with the EU now. But that's what it was. If you would have cut off the rival of Russia from the United States, from the West, guess what? No need for NATO, no billions of dollars going into Europe anymore. So they said, oh, no. Well, we don't want that. We want to keep that money flowing. So there's way too much of that going on in politics.
But why do you think Trump is ideologically aligned with what you just say?
Yes, but Trump is a negotiator, and he knows NATO has huge leverage. He knows if he threatens to pull the NATO funding from Europe, that they'll basically get on their knees and beg.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, I think, why Trump continues to keep us in NATO, is for that leverage in the negotiation, which I don't like, but I do think that's why.
Lot to be said for that.
I want to ask you, I think that your generation is used to politicians not keeping their promises. We famously remember George H. Bush, no new taxes, and walking all of that back. I think a lot of people, 10 years ago, you were in your 20s, early 20s, and I would imagine very excited about what you thought was somebody very, very different, not a typical politician, maybe not a politician at all. First of all, would it be fair to say that right now, do you think Trump is just a typical politician?
Yes, that's how I view him.
So my question for you all is this just the way it is? I mean, are we just on a perpetual cycle of being lied to by politicians?
Here's the thing. I mean, again, this is one of these, history didn't start in 2015. How do you think we felt when Reagan didn't produce all of the things that he said he was going to do? I mean, I was there when George H.W. Bush said no new taxes. I was there when I saw the smirk on George Mitchell's face when Bush caved and agreed to the tax increase so that he could proceed with Operation Desert Storm. And so, this disappointment is nothing new. It just happens to be focused on a new subject, which is Donald Trump, who we all thought was going to be different.
But I think, too, Reagan did have an ideological core.
Well, yes.
And that he pursued imperfectly because, by the way, we're all imperfect.
Yeah.
And, my rule of thumb, all politicians lie. So, I mean, I've said this, and we ought not ever be surprised. But I think there's an ideology that we expected Donald Trump to have. America first, MAGA, that is, every part of this conversation is revealing not so. And you and I have spoken, he turns out to be not ideological at all. It's deal making, it's immediate pragmatism. It's not, to your point about MAGA, marriage of convenience. To what extent did he ever verbalize exactly what it was? I'm not saying it's quite as vague as Obama's hope and change, but it allowed all of us to put in our own hopes and dreams, which allowed all of us to be betrayed in our own way.
I push back on that a little bit as we go into the next question, because he very definitely said he was going to drain the swamp.
Totally.
Very definitely said that he was going to go in, clean up our three-letter agencies, clean up DC. So I want to move on to a topic that has affected, I think, every single person on this stage, and it's very serious. It's the topic of accountability and de-weaponization.
Did you guys know that you can support WalkAway by going to our shop and getting some incredible merch and swag so that you can wear proudly your message that you support the WalkAway movement? Well, whether you want a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, hats, backpacks, coffee mugs, phone cases, there's just about nothing that you can't find on our shop that has really great messaging that you'll feel proud to wear out in public to show that you support WalkAway. So please go to walkaway.shop. Any purchase that you make, 100% goes to support the movement. So again, your purchasing of a shirt, hat, or anything for WalkAway is a donation to the movement that helps us drive our mission to reach as many people on the left as we can, to wake them up and get them to walk away. This is what helps us get into college campuses, do marches, rallies, town halls, and debates all over the country. So get your WalkAway swag, shirts, hats, everything you can imagine at walkaway.shop. Wear it proudly and help support the movement. Again, that's walkaway.shop.
And I think most of us took for granted that this administration was going to go in and clean out our three-letter agencies, get justice for some of the most crooked and corrupt actors who really destroyed people's lives. I'm talking about people like Fauci. I'm talking about the January 6th committee. I'm talking about Fonnie Willis, Letitia James, James Comey, Alvin Bragg, and all the rotten apples in the FBI and the DOJ. Where are the arrests and what's going on?
Well, I want to make this point. I'm actually friends, and he's an Orthodox Jewish guy. His name's John Gross. He's probably going to get mad that I said this, but he just left the DOJ because he was a J6 attorney, and he kept on writing memos encouraging the Department of Justice to investigate the Department of Justice, and Harmeet Dillon will not do it because they're not going to investigate themselves. So if you think that there's any chance that we're going to get any sort of retribution for the January 6th committee, 0% possibility. So we have Trump in that's not going to go after the corruption that he campaigned that he was going to go after. Right. So it's very frustrating, especially because we know that was a scam, you know, and obviously you're affected by January 6th. A lot of people's lives were ruined. And yes, that was probably the best thing that Trump did was pardoning the January 6ers, but that doesn't take back the time you lost, the money you lost, the relationships that you lost, the family damage. I mean, it's just so much. You don't even get any sort of retribution. You don't even get any financial,
lawyer fees, right?
Restitution. Right. Yeah, it's a horrible situation, and it would be so. I'm saying, it's similar to the Epstein list. It would be so easy to go after the corrupt people that were part of it, but they choose not to because they protect their own.
But Alex, some of the architects of January 6th were promoted within the FBI. Promoted. So we're not just not getting rid of bad actors. Some of them are getting raises and promotions.
Yeah.
But could I come back to this point that is sort of the subtext of did Trump disappoint? Did Trump betray us? Did Trump do what politicians do? Corruption, which we're talking about in this context, is at work in all of these things. We have, let's be clear, interests, vested interests. We have lobbyists, we have corporations, we've got people who want those H-1B visas, all of which operate, and that's not transparent to the American people. And it may not even be transparent to the politicians or the non-politicians in Trump's case before he gets elected the first time. By the second time, third time, clearly knew. But this is a point that I mean, it goes back, I guess, in a way to what George is saying. We're suddenly seemingly arriving at the conclusion that there's gambling going on in this casino. We're shocked. We're shocked. If you want to do something about politicians lying to you, it has to start with accountability, for one thing. You don't rehire them when they do it to you. You punish them. And
so would you then agree on that point?
And you go after the vested interests that are corrupting.
So would you agree then on that point that your generation failed to do that?
I would agree that every generation has failed to do it.
I don't believe we've had a proper chance.
Of doing it.
I don't believe our generation has had that chance.
To be fair, Kash Patel is our generation, and he's not doing anything to go after
and he's very unpopular right now.
By the time you're running things, you will have this problem too.
Do you think, I guess the difference then is, the way we look at it is, if the path that we are on is imminent death, which we all agree America is not on a right path, generally speaking, politically. If the path that we're on is imminent death for the country, and for us younger generations, you can call us left or whatever you want when we raise this stuff, but the levels of contention and resentment that I believe our generation on the right side of the aisle, we are way more contentious and resentful of our government than I think your generational conservatives and right-wing people were. Now, I don't know if it's going to have any different results, but I feel like that's what we're just looking at, this monstrous system that is nothing but corruption, and we keep hearing why it has to continue. And our generation, both on the left and the right, maybe quite frankly, Our generation is saying, just tear the whole thing down.
Yeah,
just tear the whole
there's-
thing down before it goes on enough.
Well,
There's an urgency to it for us, I think, because people saying, well, I'm not voting for the Republicans in the midterms because this has been so disappointing in the Iran war and everything, and I see people online saying, oh, but we're moving the ball down the field, but at least if we have Republicans, it's moving in our direction, and it's like, well, we're about to die. Well, the game's almost over. We can't just be moving the ball down the field. We've got to score touchdowns. So there's a certain lack of urgency, I feel like, and yet millennials, or maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, but I feel like, okay, if we don't get it done right now, Gavin Newsom's going to be president. We're all going to be in jail, and they're going to give backdoor, residency to everybody who came across.
The midterms go bad. Then people start going.
Well, the midterms have already gone bad.
We here
The midterms
feel
have
that
already gone bad.
urgency like you cannot
Yeah.
believe. That is what drives us. The urgency is
But part of what I think
deeply
is
understood.
slowing us down is the inability sometimes to even be able to talk about these things because of the whole, stop the infighting crowd. This might not seem like a generational issue, but in some ways it really is, because when I see people online expressing outrage and frustration that nothing seems to be happening, it often seems like it's members of the baby boomer generation jumping in the comments and scolding people for not being patient enough and lending what could be described as limitless optimism that everything's being handled behind the scenes and justice is coming, just give it more time, trust the plan. But what if it isn't?
Yeah.
And why aren't we allowed to be frustrated and ask these questions without being reprimanded?
Well, I want to say that those questions should be asked and they should be answered. And there have been answers in the past to these same kind of situations. And I hate to keep going back to Reagan, but that's a model that's worth following. I mean, in the late 1970s, there was immense, it's hard to put it in words. Anger is probably the best word. Frustration, but it was deeper than that. It was more visceral. And what people did, because we didn't have the option of going online and ranting, is we got organized, we went precinct to precinct, we elected conservatives to run the Republican Party in many states, and we elected Ronald Reagan. And what I see going on today is not that level of figuring out how to solve the problem. Ranting online is not going to solve the problem. Electing new people from your generation or people who are not from your generation but who share your concerns is the only way to fix this stuff.
You know what?
Trump came out of a similar frustration with Obama, right? So Trump was the reaction.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was mostly on foreign policy, by the way. Obama won against Bush's foreign policy. Trump won against Bush's foreign policy, but Obama carried the same thing. But I am curious about
deeper than that.
I am curious about
it was much deeper than that. The country felt very sick at the time.
I am curious about what you said about Reagan, because obviously we don't have that experience. I will argue that I think, ranting online is a general way of saying that there's no effectiveness there. I do think online is kind of the new door-to-door in a way. So I do think there is some value not to just ranting online. But I have seen with my show, there has been a political effect. I mean, I was one of the first people to come out in the media and support Trump against the entire GOP establishment, and we won. So there is a level there. But I'm curious about the Reagan context, because you mentioned earlier, and I don't know, I wasn't there for that. I'm seeing what's going on with Trump, and it sounds like there might be a lot of parallels. It sounds like there might be a lot of parallels where Reagan got in, let down a lot of his big supporters, but it kind of, he to this day kind of remains as like the example of conservatism. He's still kind of put on this pedestal of he's the greatest Republican ever. But it sounds like from your history, like you kind of went through that and you're saying, there was similar stuff with Trump here.
Well, yeah, I'll give you a great example. There was a period, probably about 2 years into the first Reagan administration, where conservatives were taking out full-page newspaper ads criticizing Reagan for example, tax increases, for illegal alien immigration stuff.
Well, I want to make this point. That's what they actually said is when the immigration problem started, is that when Reagan won 49 out of 50 states, and they realized, look, we need to get some immigrants in here to try to cook the books because the conservatives are dominating so much. And that's actually when the big push started, was after Reagan dominated his election.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's true or not. I will accept that your representation that it's true.
An immigration bill, he'd regret it.
Yeah. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is simply that this disappointment with Reagan didn't translate into walking away. It translated into bearing down, electing more conservatives to Congress, and basically
getting Reagan to be Reagan.
Getting Reagan to be Reagan. And so how do we get Trump to be Trump?
Well, I think that's where we're trying not to repeat that history, honestly. And I don't know if we can ever get Trump not to be Trump, as you put it. I mean, I don't know if I would say I've given that up. It just seems like he's already decided. Whatever's going to happen in this administration, it's already a done deal. I think that we don't want to repeat that history. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I don't want to see Trump get held up as the gold standard for Republican president. I would much rather see him in the dumpster and say, we will never elect another Republican like this because he betrayed his base, he betrayed his voters, and he did not follow through, and he was not conservative at all. And so that's the history I think we're trying to avoid here.
Well,
one of the largest divides between the generations right now is about the weight of the Epstein Files. This was and still is a really big deal to a lot of people, and many consider it to be perhaps the largest scandal in American history. But the message became that it was time for all of us to just move on from this topic. So where do the Epstein Files fall on your list of important issues, and do we all need to just move on?
Well, I think it was the deep state handed over to Trump on a silver platter. I think that because it is tied to the most politically connected, banking connected, popular connected, they just decided to table it and shove it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. And the excuse that, oh, it would cause too much chaos, it would cause too much destruction, whatever, maybe that's true, but to me, it's probably worth it for transparency. And this was part of his campaign that he ran on. It was part of Kash Patel and the media tours he did. It was part of Dan Bongino's show for years as well. And for us to actually get a glimpse into the files and then not get any arrests, it's a weird message to send when you talk about draining the swamp, deep state arrests, and then it's like, oh, this is how politicians get corrupted. This is how they get compromised, and we get a little glimpse into it, and then nothing happens.
It's almost the worst possible outcome. It would almost be better if we'd never gotten the files than to get the files and not have any arrest from it, because all that is normalizing what's going on and saying, yeah, all these people did all this, and what are you going to do about it? It would almost be better to not have the files and just so we could just continue to speculate than go, okay, we know these people did these horrible things and they're not getting charged for it.
How does your side feel about it?
Well, I want to ask their side just one question. Do you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself?
Of course not.
Look,
Boomers.
I think
Boomers for the win.
Yeah.
Despicable, disgusting, and reprehensible. I happen to fear that while we're focusing on this individual and his friends, who were an assorted lot, we're ignoring the fact that there is, in America today, an institution that sanctifies this kind of behavior. Because the perfect man, Muhammad, took as a wife a girl of 6 and raped her at 9. And every Muslim is supposed to faithfully emulate the perfect man. Now, why are we ignoring that? I mean, that really is, I think, an example of where millennials and boomers could all agree this is totally unacceptable.
Well, yes, but that's a deflection.
It's just a different topic.
That's a deflection.
It's not different at all.
It's totally different. He asked about the Epstein Files.
Systemic.
It seems to be there's like this gravity of you want to end up with Muslims are bad for everything, and I don't get that.
Muslims are bad for us.
Well, it just seems like
are bad for
it's just a
freedom.
false dichotomy. I can agree with.
Subscribe to Sharia.
I can agree with that, but like I would feel the same about Jeffrey Epstein if instead of most of his contacts being Jewish, he was a Muslim and all of his contacts were Muslim. It wouldn't change how I feel about it. It seems
No, it's
Okay.
the behavior that's
Well,
reprehensible.
but-
and
but-
contentious.
Getting
Islam
to
was
your
created in the
point
year
about-
500, I
getting
believe.
to
We're
your
in the
point
year
about the
2026.
Epstein Files.
So,
And and no arrests. I'm interested to know who and what they should be arrested for, because there,
Child sex trafficking?
I've looked through the files. I admit I haven't read all. What is it? 3 million pages now, but I've looked through there. Certainly, the former Prince of York, or whatever the hell
Prince
his
Andrew.
name is, potentially is criminally liable if the statute of limitations hasn't run. There are a lot of other people who visited Epstein's Island and were associated with him, but in all of that, I haven't actually seen anything that would lead a prosecutor to file criminal charges.
George, I got to cut you off. You know, Puff Daddy got arrested for much less. There's
Well,
all adults. And if you take a person across state lines and you have sex with them, and you pay them, or you even facilitate, the transfer of them across state lines for sex, that's a crime.
Well,
I agree totally, but what I'm saying is, I looked through there, and the only person that I could find who actually was potentially criminally culpable was the person who was arrested and charged and convicted, and that was Jeffrey
The
Epstein.
DOJ acknowledges that there were victims, and they've told us many, many times, we've redacted
But-
the names of the victims. This is about protecting the victims.
Yeah.
So if we have victims,
But-
how can we
but-
not have perpetrators?
Well,
And
that's my point. Who were the perpetrators? I didn't see their names in the file.
But they obviously exist, but you agree they exist.
I agree they exist.
So where's the
and we could
investigation?
find out.
If they were,
If you find them out, you would prosecute.
Yeah, if we found them out, we could.
I mean,
Are we trying?
there's a lot of talk in the files about murder and torture, and maybe they're just, talking like that, and it's not real, but it would be worth investigating that, and a lot of the names
Absolutely.
talking about
I
that.
agree, totally.
So, I mean, those are, and it's only America that's not looking out after this. I mean, the UK, their government almost fell because of the Epstein Files. France just yesterday, and then again today, I think, raided the Rothschild Bank in France, investigating this. It's only America that's not investigating this, and it's mostly Americans in those files. So if France and England can find things to investigate, how can we not find things to investigate? It's not because they're not there. It's
Right.
because the people who are in the files are also the ones who would do the.
And I think there's a bigger
Prosecution.
connection. The fact that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was Robert Maxwell, who died under mysterious circumstances and who was given a proper Israeli funeral as if he was part of the Israeli military. And so there is a way that you could connect Jeffrey Epstein to our intelligence agencies. And just like the Department of Justice is not going to investigate themselves with January 6th, it seems like another situation where the CIA is not going to investigate themselves if he was an asset or if he was an asset for a foreign country. So that's why, because I know how you say, oh, well, there's not enough evidence, I'm not reading the files. They're not going to give us the real files. And the likelihood that Ghislaine Maxwell is probably connected to an intelligence agency, it's a much bigger, there's a lot of the onion that we need to peel back that we're not peeling.
Well, I'm all in favor of peeling the onion back. I'm merely suggesting that having reviewed a lot of the files, and I got to tell you, I mean, I wish there was something there.
Well, see, I don't
wish-
understand that. I've actually had this debate multiple times. I don't know how you can say you've properly reviewed the files and not think there's anything worth prosecuting in there. I don't understand.
I'm not saying that there's nothing worth prosecuting. I'm saying that having reviewed them, I can't figure out who would be prosecuted besides maybe former Prince Andrew.
Well, obviously, Maxwell and Epstein were trafficking their sex slaves to somebody.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And that's the least of what we know. We don't know what was going on at the island, but I think the proper framework needs to be had to actually have this discussion. So we all agree Epstein didn't kill himself, right?
Yeah.
You guys know who Jean-Luc Brunel is? Are you familiar with Jean-Luc Brunel? Okay, another important element. He was basically the European Epstein.
Yeah.
He didn't kill himself either. He died in a prison. He didn't kill himself.
And he allegedly was going to turn witness.
And then there's Virginia Giuffre and the rest of the victims that were about to be whistleblowers, and they committed suicide too. Somebody's covering something up. I mean, let's not be children here. Somebody's covering something up.
Do they have any connection with Hillary Clinton and Epstein?
Not that, well,
Well,
actually,
I mean,
yeah,
Bill
quite
Clinton
a
was on the
strong
island 26 times, so
So I think the issue that we're having here is we can talk about the files, or we can sit here and say, okay, why was there this blackmail operation going on? That's the real question. Who was running the blackmail operation, and who was all into it? Is our government so corrupt because a lot of these people are blackmailed because they're on tape with underage girls, underage boys cheating on their spouses, laundering money, that Epstein was involved in all of that stuff? I think that's the question we want answered. And right now the DOJ is just telling us, nope, it's a hoax. We're not going any further.
Exactly. And in addition to all of that, Owen, I was about to say, what I find really unnerving about all of this is the way in which this has been messaged since our side took power, because everybody in this administration while campaigning talked about the importance of getting to the bottom of the Epstein situation, the files, knowing what happened. And I would probably say Dan Bongino, more than just about anybody, contributed to whipping up the frenzy of all of the speculation of what could have been going on. Fine. If I am to have to accept that they went in there, they looked at the files, and there was just absolutely nothing there. Okay, fine, if I have to believe that. But wouldn't the logical thing to do be to get in front of the public and say, look, we understand that we contributed to this belief that there was something unbelievably heinous to find in here, but we're surprised to find out there isn't. That's not what we're being told. We're being told, you're still talking about that? You still care about that? Shut up. Why are you asking these questions? I find that unnerving.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's unnerving also, and I think, again, the onion should be peeled back. But I got to tell you, we've had a poll about the Epstein Files up on our website it's been up and down several times. Guess what the #1 choice of the respondents is? We don't give a crap.
And what is the age bracket of this poll?
Well, we don't.
Exactly.
We
don't care. And I'll tell you what, and this is I think there is obviously a generational divide, not just in political ideology or perspective, but in technology. I would ask you guys, have you ever heard of Pizzagate?
Of course.
Did you go down that rabbit hole? Pretty dark stuff. What about Frazzle Drip, Wayfairgate? All of these things are connected. All of these things are connected, and you know, just because we grew up on the internet, we can probably move around and put these parts together. And I don't know, maybe you can argue against this, but I would say our generation is easier to go into the internet, put all these parts together, and then like have this consortium that's like, wow, there's really some odd satanic child sex trafficking network going on. Look at all these different evidence points, and then the Epstein Files is like the final cherry on top, and then nothing gets done. So if you say that there's a group of people that doesn't care about the Epstein Files, that is certainly not our generation. Our generation, it is like up near the top of the pyramid.
And I would say the reason why people like Jimmy Savile got away with it is because your generation isn't that hard on it. And Jimmy Savile was the world's biggest pedophile before Jeffrey Epstein. He was a host of a show called Top of the Pops. And he was so dark and demented that he would take children. He was a porter at the Royal Children's Hospital, would take children out of the hospital, out of the morgue, and go do SRA, satanic ritualistic abuse, and have sex with the dead bodies and drink the blood. And this is not even a conspiracy. You can look this up if you don't know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And I'm saying people kind of overlooked it because there was a generation where, oh, you know, a football coach sometimes sleeps with a kid and it's not a big deal, but now it's just changed. And I'm not saying that you're okay with that, but I think we are finally punishing pedophiles more than we did in the past.
Here's what's interesting, and I think we've examined this here today on and off camera, is you talk about that poll. If that same poll said, well, what about Muslims raping children? He'd vote 1,000 times. He'd sit there, he'd click that mouse until he got arthritis.
I would vote that too, though.
So why does it matter if it's Muslims or Epstein or politicians or anybody? It should be the same priority level.
Say you, Frank. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, it seems to. You don't have near the excitement and fervor over the Epstein Files.
Ideological
I said
pervasiveness.
what I think needs to be said about the subject. I think it's despicable and heinous, and I object to it.
But you have been ranting against Muslims here. You don't rant like that against the Epstein Files.
I don't rant against the Epstein Files like that. I rant
Then
against the
proven.
Epstein Files appropriately, I think. I rant against Sharia supremacists who seek to destroy our country. And that's
What about
seems to be
Jewish
missing
supremacists
in your
that seek to destroy our
calculation, and
country?
It worries me that it is.
But what about Jewish supremacists that seek to destroy our
Jewish
country?
supremacists have, to the best of my knowledge, not sought to destroy my country.
I hope you're all enjoying this video, and if you are, do me a favor, jump in the chat and throw some comments in there to help us boost the algorithm. Like this video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a lot of great videos and content coming out in the coming days and weeks and months, and you guys are not going to want to miss it. A lot of truth telling. So please be sure to subscribe to my channel and click that bell for notifications so you never miss another video.
To the best of my knowledge, not sought to destroy my country.
Well, what about Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, there's a lot of emails where he's disparaging non-Jews.
May or may not be a Jewish supremacist.
But he certainly was working at the very
Then
high
you haven't
level
read
to
the
destroy our
files.
No
countries.
idea. But I'm saying to you that whatever it was he was doing was not going to destroy our country. You
It
could
was.
say it was a lot of other horrible.
Wait a second. You
Running a
think that
sophisticated
Muslims have done
blackmail
more to
scheme.
destroy the country than Epstein potentially blackmailing and Israel blackmailing our entire Congress?
I think that he has done, if you say he's done all of those things, that would be reprehensible and terrible. What I'm saying to you.
But would you say it would be
What I'm
worse?
saying to you, jihadists have already tried to do to our country.
No.
To destroy parts of it.
No.
And I
And
got
what they have made absolutely clear they intend to do is.
Where are the Muhammad
But
files?
are you saying that
Where the
what
Muhammad files?
Epstein?
Yeah.
What are you saying that what
Muhammad
Epstein?
Yeah, where are the Muhammad files?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Because they don't exist. There's the Epstein files.
Well, Muhammad did marry a 9-year-old. No, I mean.
Are you saying
I'd say
though
there's
that the
plenty of
Epstein?
Evidence of uncertain quality, I have to be honest with you.
But hold on a second. You're talking about a group of people.
Just me a second to respond to your question. If you're telling me that there is no evidence of what Muhammad's life directed Muslims to do, and that none of that body of work is objectionable to you, I would tell you that you're either off on a toot on somebody who is a marginal figure, or you are simply giving a pass to people who actually want to destroy your country.
You will
And that
not
makes
find
no
me.
sense.
Hold on a second. You will not find me standing up for Muslims or their theology anywhere.
like-
So let's be perfectly clear. No.
Sounds like-
I am doing a simple compare and contrast if we're talking about America's interest. That's what I'm talking about. You're talking about a group of people and their theology. And if you want to go there,
Not their theology, their ideology.
okay, their ideology. To them, it's a theology. Well, what about the idea of Jewish supremacy being a ideology, a theology? That's a very real thing. But again, this is a single group of people. We're talking about a corrupt country and how it got corrupted. It didn't get corrupted by Mohammed blackmailing politicians. It didn't get corrupted by a Muslim island where people went there and had sex with kids, cheated on their wife, whatever. That happened because Jeffrey Epstein was working with the daughter of a Mossad agent to control our government. That is a bigger threat to our country. As monstrous as the activities that you might be speaking of, that is a bigger threat to our country than what it is you're talking
Let's
about.
open it up
couldn't disagree more.
to global affairs. I believe that the topic that most illustrates the generational divide right now is the war in Iran and America's relationships with foreign allies. Many young conservatives are expressing a sense of betrayal, claiming that Trump promised no new wars. Older conservatives seem to stand in firm allegiance with Trump for striking Iran. So let's start first with Iran. We were told we destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities in June of 2025.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close.
So how does this war stop a nuclear Iran?
Well, he just said it all right there. We did it again for Israel, just like everything else in the Middle East. And I'm just curious, how that even makes sense. If we destroyed their nuclear capabilities last year, how are they another 2 weeks away? Of course, this is what we've been told by Netanyahu for 40 years. And by the way, Netanyahu has said this in front of our Congress for 40 years. He's asked for regime change in Libya. He's got it. He's asked for regime change in Afghanistan. He's got it. Iraq, he's got it. Now Iran, he's got it. Next, they're going to go to Turkey, and then who knows after that. So do you believe that when they give us intelligence like weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that is accurate and actionable?
I don't think they gave us information about Iraq. In Iran, I don't think there's any question that.
No, but in the past, I'm just saying, remember how we.
It was actually, but it wasn't the Israelis who gave us that intelligence.
Well,
it literally was.
I guess I just want to make this point because I did cut you off. The reason why we're so especially frustrated with this war in Iran is because they lied about weapons of mass destruction after 2001. They didn't have weapons of mass destruction. We went in there and we invaded.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true.
Okay, see, this is where we're going to have a huge disconnect.
Well, look,
weapons of mass destruction does not count.
Here is a fact. During Operation Desert Storm,
what'd they find?
The West Germans made a poison gas.
Yeah, sure.
They
might have had a gas. That's not a poison gas. Is not a nuclear bomb, though. That's not nobody. This is why I'm getting frustrated. On Fox News,
poison gas.
George, on Fox News, they made it sound like they had. Water. I'm saying they made it sound like they had nuclear weapons. You and I watched the same Fox News back then. So yes, they might have found some chemical gas, but we know that Saddam Hussein used chemical gas that we gave him on his own people. So this is why it's frustrating, because you're going to say that they had some gas when they tried to represent that they had nuclear capabilities when they didn't. So you can say that's a weapon of mass destruction, but I could say an AK-47 is a weapon of mass destruction.
Who's this they we're talking about?
I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the media that lied.
I was there, okay?
And they didn't find a nuclear. They didn't find any nuclear weapons. So let's not lie.
No, they didn't find any nuclear weapons.
But they represented it like we were going to have a nuclear holocaust, like what's happening now.
That was never.
Okay, so you don't remember Colin Powell saying they have huge tubes? That we have information that they have huge tubes. What was in those huge tubes, George?
They had a nuclear weapons program.
They had a nuclear weapons program.
But that wasn't the argument. The argument was there were WMDs.
Destroyed the reactor that was part of it.
Okay, first of all, having a reactor, you could argue that a reactor could be used for nuclear power, but it's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is we're sick of being lied to and told that they have weapons of mass destruction when they don't. If you're on the cusp of getting weapons of mass destruction, that's
this is incredible. This is where
the divide is.
This is where we believe you guys fall for pure propaganda.
No, I'm sorry.
This is pure. Let me ask you a question. When was the first time Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iran was weeks away from a nuclear weapon? Do you know?
I have no idea.
The 1980s. The 1980s. For 40 years, he has been lobbying the United States to go into Iran and bomb their leadership so that Israel can take over the Middle East. That's what this whole thing is about. And you guys are stuck on this whole hate Muslims train that you can't even see what's happening right in front of your damn faces.
Well, that's what I'm coming. What is happening? Wait,
what is happening?
Do you think
our foreign policy is controlled by a foreign country that blackmails and buys our politicians in order to do it? And $5 trillion plus have been spilled in the Middle East because of it, and tens of thousands of American lives have died in the Middle East because of it. And our generation is saying we are done.
And the Muslim refugee crisis happened because of it.
That is totally effing insane.
That's not insane.
What did I say that's not true?
Israel does not control our foreign policy.
Trump just said it. He literally just said it. He had an event in Israel. He said, Marian Adelson is my top donor, and she loves Israel more than America.
That was not what he just
said.
He literally just said we did it for Israel.
He thanked
No. He
said
he said so they no longer pose a threat to Israel. He said the reason that we bombed the site was to stop a threat to Israel, not to America.
He did not say that was the reason.
That is literally the exact quote.
He did not say that was the reason. He said as a consequence.
The nuclear weapons program, as he's made clear in repeated comments, specifically in connection with this operation.
Yes.
Has been a threat to the United States as well.
In that video we just saw, he said it will no longer be a threat to Israel. That's what he just said.
But he did not say that's why we did it.
He did not say that this is exclusively. The point is, what we're saying, I think for us three, is we believe we have interests in defeating the Iranian regime.
Of course, because you've been propagandized for your whole lives.
No, we have not been propagandized.
Well, this is living proof.
You guys think we found weapons of mass destruction
right now.
Capable of making a judgment on the basis of the facts, my friend.
I just presented all the facts to you. You didn't know the facts.
Selected facts.
No, you didn't even know the facts.
Look, you don't believe
I didn't know
been
when
said.
Benjamin Netanyahu first said that the Iranians have a bomb.
Wouldn't you say that's a pretty important fact for the current foreign policy? Really? Okay.
That's the reason we went to
what we know
Okay.
and what we have witnessed is a program that has systematically been pursued by the Iranian regime that has, from the day it came to power, said death to America, as well as death to Israel.
Does Israel have nukes?
Choose to ignore that at our peril.
Does Israel have nukes?
I hope so.
Okay, so here's Israel that wants a regime change war in Iran for 40 years, and Iran is sitting there with a nuke pointed at them, and what do you think they're going to do? Oh, okay. Or do you think they're going to want to develop an equal weapon to try to level the playing field?
Let me give you a little.
I'm not concerned about the Israelis.
Let me tell you something.
Okay, well, maybe Iran is.
The chief of staff of the Indian Army after Desert Storm said the lesson of Desert Storm was don't fight the Americans without nuclear weapons. The George Rasley corollary to that is you don't pursue nuclear weapons unless you want to fight the United States. And Iran has, from 1979 to the present, has as part of its constitution that their regime is committed to the destruction of the United States, the destruction of Israel, and the Islamization of the entire world.
You think Iran is a threat to America?
That's Sharia.
They used to be.
Okay.
Owen, you just said a moment ago that Israel has undue influence over our government. I think you even said blackmails our. What evidence do you have to support that?
The Epstein Files, I think, is the heaviest, and then the results of foreign policy.
Give me names from the Epstein Files that are.
How about Howard Lutnick? How about Donald Trump? You want to go there? How about Donald Trump in the files thousands of times?
Guys, all you have to do is look at, and yes, I just want to say, there's a lot of powerful lobbies, but you can look at Cori Bush, you can look at a lot of politicians that if they do not fall in line with what exactly Israel does, they will spend so much money to fund a candidate to beat them. So they can control politics in a very subversive way by doing that, because if you're not a part of their team, they're going to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure that you lose your election.
Thomas Massie is the number one conservative in the House.
There's no comparable problem, let alone an even worse one, with Qatar?
No.
Well, it's not as sophisticated.
But it's a how would that be?
It's
They've
a totally
got $5
false
billion
dichotomy.
going into our universities.
Isn't that awesome? I wish Israel gave us $5 billion. Man, I wish Israel would give us $5 billion.
Well, to be fair, there's multiple countries that are running influence operations in our country.
They take it, but they're blackmailing us.
Exactly.
But
yeah, exactly. Of course. How do you, if you want to blackmail somebody, you think you can get some money out of them? Probably.
Is Israel our ally?
You bet.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why is it our ally?
Yes.
I believe it's our ally because it has the same enemies that we do.
That's what they've convinced you.
Wait. Why are they our enemies? Why are they our enemies? They're our enemies because we're allies with Israel.
As George has just pointed out to you, under Sharia, they must destroy us because we're the impediment to the global domination.
Then why are we enemies with Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia is the more extremist version of Islam.
You're not going to get a disagreement from me on that.
Okay, so but what I'm saying is that that's obviously not the reason that we're enemies with them. I'm saying that's
enemies with who?
I'm saying why are Israel's enemies our enemies? You're saying because they're Muslim. I'm saying that we are friends with Muslim countries.
They're Sharia adherent, which means that they are obliged to impose Sharia worldwide.
Yeah.
That's fine, but that doesn't.
Of their,
Do you think our foreign policy has been a success for the last 40 years?
I do not.
And who has been the main driver of our foreign policy?
I would say it's a combination of Americans and I believe foreign nationals.
Israelis?
Including.
Like AIPAC?
I don't think they're as much, frankly, as we've seen out of.
Why are you so afraid to say it? It's so obvious. Like, I don't get this.
And well, Frank, none of us are pro-Sharia law. You know, I just want to make sure that.
I'm just checking my sixes on this because it sounds like it.
Well, that's a misrepresentation.
It's insane.
It's not you're in favor of it. You're certainly excusing it, as we've been.
No, not at all. I'm not pro-female circumcision. Okay. What I'm saying is there can be two bad guys. Just because one is bad doesn't mean the other is good.
I'm just saying that I don't think that the one you're pointing to is a bad guy.
Well, I mean, I get frustrated because
an ally of ours and what they have done in our interest as well as theirs is profound.
But what have they done in our interest?
What have they done?
What they've done in our interest is take out the Iranian regime.
We did that.
No,
we did that.
They did that.
Really?
Donald Trump.
Oh, really?
But Frank, Iran doesn't have weapons.
We just watched the video. He said we did it. We sent the bomber.
He's talking about the fricking bomb, dude.
So we did it.
Then why are
so we did it.
Then why are we
talking
there?
about the regime?
Then why are we there?
The regime.
Then
What
why are
regime?
We put Khamenei in 1979. We were the ones that installed him. America installed Khamenei.
We let him go into Iran, and we got.
Yeah, we put him in.
You're not going to get any defensive. Jimmy Carter from
Yeah.
I just like so. This just shows you how nonsensical this argument is, and this is what we're
nonsensical, dude.
we're the ones that put the regime in. So I guess you're saying that it's our job to take it out. I know. Well, maybe we shouldn't have let it happen in 1979.
Jimmy Carter was a disaster.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to get any disagreement
Right.
about that.
We agree.
Last point. If you net out the mistakes that we made in a number of places, one of the worst of which I believe was Afghanistan, not decisively defeating the Taliban and calling it a day, but trying to convert it into a nation, a democratic nation.
Well, how is Iran
mistake in
different?
Iran.
But how is what we're doing now any different than what we did in Afghanistan?
I think what we did in Afghanistan was we had boots on the ground and we tried to nation build there. We're not doing that right now.
Well, we're about to
What
put
I'm
boots on
saying
the
to you
ground.
is Donald Trump doesn't even promote regime change. He's trying to work with this guy, Gallup.
So you trust Trump now?
Let's try to
I
bang
just
out
find
the
it.
last
I just
few
find it
questions.
funny. I just
I'm
find it
not
funny that you admit foreign policy has
saying
been a
that.
disaster, and then you say no. We need to keep doing the same foreign policy. I just don't. So when Trump comes out and says we have to keep the workers here because our economy needs them, so we're not doing mass deportations, how do you explain that?
He literally is still ongoing, and he's actually getting opposition from inside his own party.
Is look at the quagmire he inherited. 12 million people is more than Ellis Island in its totality.
Right, but that's the whole point, is that if you're going to promise mass deportations and only deliver, as Linda's saying, 2 million.
He's deporting more than any president.
I know,
million
but
in a year and a half.
He's slowing it down, too. Instead
not
of
slowing it down.
slowing it down. Actually,
that's the rhetoric that they're giving us.
Right, because you guys now propagate fake news.
No, listen,
That's what you guys do now.
I'm listening to Trump.
That's what you guys do
Literally,
now.
it's Trump
you
saying
guys
it.
push fake news.
Trump multiple times from the White House has said we have to keep these illegal workers here. That's his own word. So is Trump fake news?
I haven't heard that.
Did you not talk about
You're the one that says we don't pay attention. You seem to not
Did
pay
I say
attention.
you don't pay attention? I say you're
That's what seems to
spreading
be the
fake
case
news,
here.
and you have.
And yet you can't say
and
the
you have.
But what's the fake news?
Wait, everything you post. And now you
hear you say one thing.
socialist talking points from Kamala Harris's fact check post. That's what you do now. You're a socialist now.
So you just admitted you don't pay attention to the Trump administration,
I
and
do
you're
pay
going to
attention.
accuse me
I'm
of
sorry I
fake
didn't pay attention
news,
to that
but
clip.
you don't even know
I'm
what you're
sorry I
talking
didn't pay. That's why I said play it.
That's what the presidency is about. It's about.
But why? Hold on. Why? He's in his second term. Did we not get promised extraordinary measures, and is he delivering?
Wait, you guys can't be serious right now. 2.3.
I'm absolutely serious.
2.3 million people have been deported in 1.5 years.
I just find it funny. I just find it funny that you admit foreign policy has been a disaster, and then you say no. We need to keep doing the same foreign policy. I just don't.
Let's bang out the last few questions before we run out of time. Many people who have left MAGA did so after a rift seemed to form between this administration and some that were once considered its most loyal supporters, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massie, and most recently, Joe Kent. And in the wake of this, the administration has backed some previous never-Trumpers and individuals who have been viewed by many as rhinos, like, for instance, Lindsey Graham. As conservatives, are we required to take sides as it feels like directives are being given out about who's in and who's out? And does loyalty mean anything anymore if we're willing to cancel people on a moment's notice who have done so much for the movement?
Well, I would just say Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene had the best conservative voting records in Congress.
And George Santos.
And they both just got, well, they're trying to get Massie out. Marjorie Taylor Greene left. And AIPAC and Marian Adelson are spending tens of millions of dollars to get the top conservative in Congress out.
And all of the people that you mentioned, the main issue with him is Israel, right? Thomas Massie votes against the weapons. AIPAC targets him and tries to get him out. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, always had a black mark next to her name because of Jewish space lasers. They're always calling her anti-Semitic.
But it was Epstein.
And it was Epstein as well, which also, is involved in Israel. So again, that's sort of that's the elephant in the room, right? Is all these people got frustrated at MAGA because it stopped paying attention to America and it started serving the Israeli interests. And the never-Trumpers that you mentioned are Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, who's a total war hawk, not Jewish obviously, but desperate to get war with Iran for his entire life. So it's like when you talk about MAGA splitting, it's not that MAGA splitting, it's that it's been completely driven off the rails by Israeli interest. right?
No, I think so. That's an exaggeration. I think that what Tucker Carlson has done is move dramatically in favor of Qatar, for example, and the Turks and, you know, others who are part of, I mean, he's extolling the virtues of Sharia.
Do you think he's an anti-Semite?
I do.
You do?
He's becoming an anti-Semite.
I would totally agree with
Do you think we're anti-Semites?
Getting a little bit of a feel.
So this is why.
I'm not anti-Semitic. My grandfather is
Just
Jewish.
getting a little bit of a feel.
Yeah, of course you are. Just like a liberal would if we talked about race.
If you think that the Israelis are responsible for our foreign policy, they're driving it off the rails.
But you don't think they're
not an
influential
ally,
in
they're an actual enemy.
I don't think they're an enemy, but I'm saying I think they're too influential in there.
I'm saying that I'm getting a feel.
Why is it anti-Semitic to criticize Israel's government?
I'm saying that what I feel is when it goes from criticizing what a government does to somehow generalizing that this is actually...
You have said way more Islamophobic things than anything we've said anti-Semitic.
Do you know what's not Islamophobic? It's pointing out the...
Are you disagreeing with the fact that I just laid out?
I'm disagreeing with the fact that you've just accused me of being Islamophobic.
I think your statements dictate that.
Islamophobia is an unreasoned fear.
Yeah.
And there's nothing unreasoned about the concern I have about Sharia and what it's going to do.
And there's nothing unreasoned about the concerns we have about Israel.
Well, I think it is.
What is it?
Because I think what I'm reading is you believe the Israelis are actually hostile to our country.
Yes.
And are trying to do harm to it.
They are.
I disagree with that.
At the very least, they're subverting our own interests.
No,
Can you give example?
The war in Iran.
The war in Iran, I believe, was something that was long overdue because that was a mortal threat to this country.
They can't they don't have weapons that can actually attack America.
I really wish that we had time
Frank,
for me to do this.
Launch weapons.
Frank, we're currently in a war with them and they can't attack us. So how could they attack us? We're in a war with them and they literally can't attack us.
We are on borrowed time, my friend.
Okay, well, once again, we're debating hypotheticals.
No,
I'm saying we are currently engaged with a conflict with them and they can't attack us here in America,
about
Frank.
Assassination squads that are here in this country right now with a target on Donald Trump's back.
Then why would we start a war with them before we handled that?
The genesis of Iran's war on America and how it is embedded in their regime, it is in their constitution, it is in their
George, they had a
theology.
fatwa on using nuclear weapons. Khamenei literally had a fatwa on using...
Wait, so are you telling me you're...
So you think that's fake, Frank?
I think it's bullshit.
So wait a second. Hey, maybe it is bullshit.
I'm just...
You think propaganda just started a couple decades ago? You don't think fake news existed when you were young?
Of course it did.
Well, have you ever considered you might be falling for fake news?
I have.
Maybe not seriously enough.
But that's not what's happening. Frank, and you're ignoring the true news.
No, I'm not ignoring anything. I'm watching what's happening in my country.
You're ignoring the fact that what's happening in your country is, among other things, the subversion of it by people who intend, and make no mistake about it, intend to destroy it.
So that's your argument, that Iran is subverting our interests more than any other country.
Iran is part of the Sharia supremacy.
And next time it'll be Turkey, and next time it'll be this other Muslim country, and then Afghan, and then Qatar. He's already got it. He's already got the list.
allies with Qatar.
They're all Sharia supremacist countries.
You know that we actually have a more meaningful
agenda.
Do you know we have a more meaningful treaty with Qatar than we do with Israel?
Wait.
Rubbish.
Israel is not even a part of the non-proliferation treaty. We can't even have a deal with them.
Whether we have a treaty with them or whether we have a relationship with them is more important to me.
So they benefit quite handsomely from that relation.
They do, and the Qataris have
and we don't
quite handsomely as well. Of course we have.
No,
of course we have.
Let's take your premise in totality, right? You're absolutely right. Iran is trying to kill everybody. What?
Not everybody. Us.
Okay, us. Is this helping? Is the war in Iran helping? I mean, we just got rid of a somewhat moderate leader. A more hardline leader has taken hold. They clearly planned for this attack. I mean, Iran did not start this fight. Iran...
That the Ayatollah Khamenei was a moderate leader?
Moderate Iranians
comparatively to the new guy.
Really?
Comparatively to the new guy. Yes, the new guy is more...
Possible. They're birds of a feather. They're father and son, for God's sake.
How many countries...
So it's the best we've done nothing.
He's not even the leader. He's in Russia getting treated because he's deathly ill.
Okay.
The guy who's running it now is the guy that Trump is saying he's going to make the new, Rodriguez.
Is that really going to work?
A very devastating problem.
Frank, I have a question. If Trump can't even pick who's going to be the mayor of New York City, do you really think that he can pick who's going to run Iran?
I don't think he can. But I'm saying what he's doing is legitimating this guy.
Do you think we're going to be stuck in this for decades?
Of course we're going to be stuck in it. How long is it
We've been
worth it
stuck
to
in it our
stay?
whole
How
lives.
long is it? How long should we stay in Iran? I mean, if
Not
things
in Iran.
We're about to be.
well, bombing Iran. How long should we keep this up? Like, what is the ultimate goal?
For me?
No. Well, yeah, for the war in Iran.
For the government, I'm speaking for me.
Okay, but what would we do? Are you going to make them all not Muslim? Are we going to kill all of them? No matter what happens, at the end of the day, it's going to be an Islamic country, right? The same thing happened with Bashar al-Assad. He was an Alawite. He was more moderate. Who replaced him? Al-Jawlani, the Al-Qaeda guy. Was that a good thing?
I was not responsible for replacing.
I'm not blaming you. I'm asking for your opinion.
Donald Trump replaced him.
It's the same foreign
It was
policy.
bad. It was a
it's
bad
the same.
policy. It
It's
was
the
not
same
good.
foreign policy. That's what he's saying. It's the same foreign policy.
It's all part of the same
Which
movement.
are the same? Which are you comparing them to? Al-Jawlani is the same as the Shias. You're absolutely right.
No.
They're
Bashar al-Assad was an Alawite who protected the minority populations in Syria. Yeah, they kicked him out and they put al-Jawlani in, who's been killing the Druze, and now the Israel.
It's like we had better relationships with Muammar Gaddafi at the end of his reign when Hillary Clinton decided he was going to go.
Right,
and
they did open up
Netanyahu
the
decided
floodgates to
that.
Europe.
Now in Libya, they've
This is what's amazing. You can go back
now.
online and you can find interviews from the 80s and 90s before. Are you going to
Well, they're
deny
real
that online
interviews.
is real? Guess where this interview is going? Online.
Sometimes it is.
So
Are you not
Netanyahu
to agree
called for regime change in Libya and said Gaddafi was making weapons of mass destruction before Hillary Clinton even popped up on the political
There was
radar.
a time when he was.
Of course.
We
And then
disarmed him.
of course.
And what
That
happened?
was the best example, actually, of
Yes, Libya is such a
dealing with
success
the
story
weapons
of
of
foreign
mass-
policy. Another success story.
You can
of
buy a
American foreign
slave
policy.
for $500 in Libya.
Owen, I'm not saying that. I'm saying.
So you're admitting it's a failure?
When Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama took over the brief, it became a complete fiasco. Disarming Muammar Gaddafi and turning him into a guy who was relatively aligned with us
was a big mistake for him.
It was a bit.
But for him, it was a very stupid thing. He never should have
got rid of the nuclear weapons, which everybody else has concluded they now need to have.
because of our actions. Because he agreed to get rid of
Hillary
nuclear
Clinton
weapons, and he ended up sodomized by his own people as a consequence.
I think we could go back and forth
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama made that happen.
for a while on this, but before we close out on this topic, I do want to ask you something, Frank, because you said something that I need clarification on, to say the least. Owen asked you if you think that they are anti-Semites, and you said you could be getting a vibe.
I'm getting a vibe.
Yeah, a vibe. So this concerns me because I got to be honest, in the course of this conversation, I have not heard anything that I would describe as hatred of Jews or Jew hatred. I've heard harsh criticism of the government of Israel. How are we able to criticize any foreign government, in this case, the government of Israel, if we're going to label it anti-Semitic or hatred of an entire group of people for criticizing their government?
I didn't label it.
Well, I'm asking the
to
question.
respond, I would say that in the present moment, in millennial circles and others, what we are increasingly seeing is people saying horrible things about the government of Israel because they can say that without directly saying horrible things about the people of Israel or the people that
You're like afraid to say the Jews.
But
It's weird. It's weird. To say the Jews.
I'm afraid of what is the upshot of the kinds of critiques that I'm hearing here.
I know, but the word in the sentence you were just saying was
Jews is a word I'm perfectly comfortable saying.
Okay, good.
This is a question that is, I believe, part of an op. And I think Tucker Carlson has taken it to
Russia.
Frank, let me ask you a question.
And let me just answer the question. I'm concerned that people who have concluded that the source of all of the problems in the world,
That's not what
our
we
problems in particular, in the Middle East most especially, are because of the Jews, and who now don't say that,
but who now say it's the government of Israel.
So that has not been expressed.
Receiving
That has not been expressed once in this conversation.
Expressed once?
That Jews are to blame for all of
you
our
haven't.
problems.
You're making the cutout.
So you're the one leaping to conclusions. You are, and this is what we've dealt with. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Is that how you feel?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
It's specifically not what he said.
No, but hold on a
That's
second.
Specifically what he did not say.
Well, I'd say
Specifically what
the
he
question
did not
was,
say.
is there a way to talk about Israel without being anti-Semitic? And it sounds like the answer is no.
No, that's wrong.
Then what have we done here wrong?
I'm saying when you arrive at the conclusion that Israel is responsible for all of these horrible things that have happened to the United States, you did an entire riff about all of the treasure, all of the lives, all of the Middle East.
And it's all true.
It's not true.
It's not true.
Saying that it
in
is
my
all
lifetime.
Israel's fault.
No. I didn't say that. I said they influence our foreign
The government
policy.
of Israel is manipulating the United States.
That's just obvious fact. Hold on. Let me just say one thing.
It is a debate.
Hold on a second. Okay, fair. Let me just say one thing. This is what we've dealt with from the left. It's funny that you want to say, oh, this is some leftist bent. This is what we deal with. You guys always do that.
I never said the word
This is what we did. This is what we deal with. Whenever we talk about crime in America, whenever we talk about recipients of welfare, they say, oh, that's racist. It's like, no, I'm making a general observation and having a debate. Now it's the same thing with Israel. Oh, you can't talk about Israel, you're an anti-Semite. Oh, you can't talk about crime rates, or you're a racist. That's the woke ideology that has killed this country's political debate. And that's the political correctness of why we can't get out of this phase, because people are so scared to say the truth.
Let me just ask you directly, right to your faces. When you criticize the government of Israel, is that in any way, shape, or form shorthand for a larger hatred or disdain of the Jewish people or Jews in general?
No.
Is there anything else behind it?
Well, I want to just answer this real quick. First of all, I have a Jewish grandfather. No, and I'm not even trying to be funny. I think that Jews, if I was like in a bad car accident and I went to the ER and I had a black doctor, a Mexican doctor, a Jewish doctor, I'd pick the Jewish doctor. So I do think Jews are good. I'm saying I like Jews. I just feel like I'm an American firster, and I don't like foreign countries dictating our foreign policy. So that's really where it comes from. It's no anti-Semitism whatsoever. But I want to say one last point. To the Muslim thing, even though my grandfather is Jewish, I was baptized, and I don't agree with Sharia law whatsoever, but Muslims do treat Jesus Christ with more respect than Judaism. And I feel like that is a big issue that we talk about a lot. Like, at least they do.
You know the respect they have for him? That he's going to come back at the end of times and kill.
Well, I'm just saying that
that's not exactly the Christ that we respect.
Well, what does the Talmud say? I mean, it's not.
Harrison and Owen, you didn't answer the question.
Well, I would say I think that there's an element missing from this conversation, and it's done intentionally in Western media. Netanyahu is dealing with his own issues in his own country. There's people in the streets protesting Netanyahu almost every day. The Orthodox Jews have issues with Netanyahu all over the world, and the Knesset in Israel right now is wanting to put Netanyahu on trial. So this idea that somehow every single Jew agrees with the current U.S. foreign policy or the actions of Netanyahu, I think, if anything, that's more anti-Semitic than sitting here and trying to have an open conversation about foreign policy or criticizing a foreign government. But you never see any of that in the Western media, so it's this idea that, it's this one train of thought, single foreign policy, everyone agrees with all of these different ideas, and that simply isn't true. And so because you don't see that other side of the spectrum, let's say from a Israeli Jew or an American Jew, since you don't see that other side of the spectrum, you're just assumed that, if you criticize this because everyone's thinking the same, then you must have some inherent hatred.
But what about you? I'm asking about you. When you
criticize
Israel,
I can't even believe that I'm having this conversation, quite frankly.
But I want to clear it up.
Well, this is why I go back to what happens when we talk to the left and they say you're a racist if you disagree with Black Lives Matter, or you're a homophobe if you don't like LGBTQ+.
I agree with that comparison, I mean.
And I think that it's basically the same thing. And we're sitting here as millennials, we're like, what are you talking about? We grew up with all these people. I grew up with everybody. I grew up with black people, gay people, Jewish people. Nobody cared. Nobody thought. We all talked open-minded. And now all of a sudden I have a foreign policy opinion and it's like, I've changed? No.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that really most of my criticism of Israel, I think if Israel had listened to my criticism early on, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in now, which I don't think is a good situation for the people on the ground in Israel or for the fate of Israel as a nation. I think they operate against their own interests a lot of times, but you'll be called anti-Semitic if you criticize it. So while it's it's like my motivation to criticize Israel is not born from anti-Semitism. It's not because they're Jewish. The reason people defend it or say I shouldn't talk about Israel is because they're Jewish. So I think the way anti-Semitism as a concept is weaponized makes it hard to talk about Israel and makes it almost impossible to talk about the actual issues with Israel, because it always gets pulled and yanked into a conversation about anti-Semitism when that's not really what we're talking about. And that's a strategy. I mean, they've gone through and redefined anti-Zionism to be anti-Semitism in all the social medias and everything like that. So, like, at this point, if you criticize Israel, it goes into the chart of anti-Semitism. And so then they can show that chart and say, look, it's anti-Semitism rising. Really, it's just criticism of Israel.
Who's they?
The Jewish groups that do this sort of stuff. I mean,
the ADL,
the ADL, the SPLC, AIPAC, the places that are incentivized for there to be more anti-Semitism, right? The more anti-Semitism there is, the more they can get donations, the more power they can accrue to themselves. Again, it's not because they're Jewish that this is happening. People do this for all types of people, but obviously it happens with Jews as well. So, right?
Look, I'm delighted that there's not an anti-Semite in the room, and all I'm suggesting is don't blame all the world's problems on Israel.
And that never happened once.
It has happened repeatedly tonight.
Not in this conversation.
Well, I mean, America has a lot to blame for our issues. I mean,
policy, in terms of the Middle East, in terms of.
Well, this is because we have a disagreement. We believe Israel is the #1 influencer of our foreign policy, and that's what we believe. And I think it's pretty obvious. You guys disagree.
I do.
And that doesn't mean that they're responsible for all problems, but
no, the suggestion was made several times tonight that it is. And look, if that's not the case, all the better. Great. Then we.
But you don't want every Jewish person on the planet to be held in the same regard as Netanyahu.
Who's making that kind of claim?
Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin.
No.
Judeo-Christian promotional ideas.
Or Israel, or the government of Israel, or Bibi Netanyahu are suggesting that somehow it's all one big monolithic thing.
Which is even worse.
There are some people in Israel who hate Bibi, no doubt about it. They're a relatively small number. He's being prosecuted. There's no question about it. That's been going on for years. The point is, from my perspective, what he has done historically, and particularly in this past couple of years, has been not only absolutely essential to the survival of Israel, but of value to us as well.
But isn't that ironic in and of itself? You say he's been good for the survival of Israel, yet Israel sits here every day and says their very survival is at stake. So how is that a good thing?
And do you think that Israel's
survival is at stake?
But I'll just
forever, for all time. So I have to.
Because I know
as long as you've got Sharia supremacy.
And why is this my problem? It's not.
That is going to be continuing.
Can I ask a question? Because we were talking about this off camera. So I want to ask, what about what's going on in the West Bank, with Israel destroying the last Christian settlements there that have been there since the time of Jesus?
I don't believe that's true.
You don't think
they
that's
did bomb a church? They bombed the last Catholic church.
Taiba is the last all-Christian settlement, and they're annexing it. They're driving the people out, and they're starting fires there and burning it, right?
I don't believe that's true.
Okay, well,
so you don't think Israel's expanding at all right now?
What about Lebanon?
Well, I want to ask two questions. I just want to ask two questions.
Israel is trying to deal with the threat that they are facing.
So that's a nice packaged way to say they're expanding
in the West.
So it's a nice packaged with a bow.
Frank,
they're expanding.
This is why they're losing this is why they're losing the propaganda war, and why young people are becoming more, outspoken when it comes to Israel. Is that even the IDF admits that they have a 84% civilian casualty rate in Gaza. So I understand that Hamas is there, but if the majority of people that they're bombing are under the age of 18. That's a little egregious. And then on top of that, we start this Iran war. The reason we're anti-war is because they bomb a school with 170 kids, and it's hard to defend that. You know what I mean?
How can you guys argue that you only care about America, you just want to put America
I'm
first,
saying we
care about American interests, and now you seem deeply
defending.
involved with Israel and Gaza and what's going on there, which really shouldn't impact your life in any way.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because they dictate a lot of our foreign policy, and we send them a lot of money. So I mean, it takes my tax dollars.
It's our weaponry
I've
that they
never
use
seen
to do
a
it.
statistic that indicates that the
That's
Israelis.
the IDF stats.
84%
is civilians.
I've never seen that.
Well, Google it.
But this is the thing, is that when you say
the key piece of this is the kind of war that they've been fighting, which they did not start, is in the worst kind of conditions imaginable.
That's not an excuse, though.
It is an excuse if you're in a war.
I don't
and
think
if
it
it
is.
looks like
I don't
that
think it is.
compared to what we.
Well, it's a war when one. It's a war when one side does it. It's not a war when the other side does it.
But
and this is the illogic.
Wait a minute, guys. I believe it is indisputably the case that the war that they have fought has been with the fewest casualties in urban warfare in history.
That's crazy.
Certainly far better.
Have you
than
seen
Gaza?
That is
certainly far
that
better
is
than ours.
Unsupportable by the facts. Absolutely not.
It's a fraction of what we did in Fallujah.
As we head toward the end of this conversation, and perhaps this is the best time to ask this question because the whole point of this conversation is to deal with and expose the divide, and I think we've done that. So a lot of focus right now is on the midterms, and the question is, how do we win the midterms? But perhaps more importantly, is there even a we anymore? Are we a we? And if we are, how do we win the midterms?
I love that logic because that's exactly what you're asking Americans for this war in Iran, to pay more for gas. But I'm not.
Don't. We're not talking about Iran right now.
That's logic.
You love switching the topic.
We're talking about logical consistency.
No, we're talking about.
If you're going to
mass
ask
deportation.
Americans to pay more for gas for a war in the Middle East for foreign and special interests, but you're not going to ask Americans to pay more to keep Americans employed in our own country?
I'm more than happy to discuss the Iran war. I'm more than happy to talk about the Iran war. More than happy, and it's not going to go well for you. Trump has been talking about since 1981 that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, and said in 1981 that we need to use military force to prohibit Iran from getting nuclear weapons.
They didn't have a nuke, they weren't building a nuke, and they still don't have a nuke.
You're just lying.
Did Iran have a nuke?
No.
Okay.
Did they?
Did Iraq have weapons of mass destruction? Did babies die in incubators?
Do you wait?
No. No.
Do you wait?
All of these lies led us to wars. Well, let's put it in the perspective of how do Republicans maintain the House and the Senate? Let's put it into that perspective.
Fair enough.
Well, you'd have to go all the way with Doge. You'd have to go all the way. I'd say at least 500 billion in savings annually. I'd like to see $1 trillion, and then I'd like to see mass arrests of the people that committed the waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what we voted for. That's what most Americans would support. I think you have to get out of the Middle East entirely. I think that'll bring in voters that are disenfranchised on the right and the anti-war left. That can save the midterms. You got to do something about the Epstein Files. I mean, I don't know exactly what, but something. You can't have nobody get arrested. You can't not make any statements. And you got to do the mass deportations. And of all the things, that might actually have the least impact, quite frankly, when you talk about actual votes. But you got to get out of the Middle East. You got to cut all the foreign aid. You got to go all the way with Doge. And then you need to arrest people that engaged in this waste, fraud, and abuse. That's the only thing that can save the midterms, in my eyes.
Well, and I think the illusion that we have a two-party system is totally fake. We have a uniparty, and I think the best example of that is the fact that they won't even pass the SAVE Act. So they give us this illusion that it's right versus left, but really they're on the same team. So I don't think the midterms are going to go our way, and I don't even think they're salvageable, honestly, because they've lost every special election, and especially in Mar-a-Lago's district, they just lost to Democrats. So if you just kind of if you read the tea leaves, it's not looking good, and I don't know what Hail Mary is going to save it.
Well, I have to say that speaking of regime change, what we really need is regime change at the RNC and get people in there who aren't part of the uniparty, who actually want to win elections and will go out and do the stuff necessary to win elections. And yes, there are policy things that could be done. Owen's listed a bunch, not all of whom, which I agree with, but the majority of them. But, you know, unfortunately, the MAGA movement does not have a technology in place. It doesn't have leadership in place. It doesn't have grassroots activists in place that are going to go out and win elections like this recent one in Florida.
We have everything in D.C. Our policy should get results that should get people to vote. That's the problem. We should be developing and getting results that people will go vote for. And you know, we can have this debate. Obviously, we disagree on foreign policy here. And I would simply say this. If you're a Republican, is it worth sacrificing the midterms for more unpopular foreign policy in the Middle East?
Domestically, it seems like we all agree on almost every policy.
Yeah, and that I think it's probably too late to salvage the midterms because I think Trump has just sort of wrecked his base and you know all the things Owen listed. In a word, you're just saying do the things you ran on. fulfill your campaign promises that you have absolutely failed to fulfill up to this point. And really, I haven't even seen steps towards fulfillment of those campaign promises. I've seen a lot of big talk and then not a lot of action. We haven't even gotten a single arrest of anybody. We got one indictment of James Comey, that was thrown out, and that's it. I mean, it's pathetic. Why would I vote for people that don't do anything for me and then go to war with Iran? And I mean, originally, my whole point for voting for Trump was because he was anti-war. I mean, war is like one of my biggest issues, and I feel totally betrayed on that. So I don't know how you can unbetray somebody
If
it
the
doesn't really work.
midterms were tomorrow, would you vote?
I would still vote conservative, but I mean, I don't think it would matter.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever vote for a Democrat.
Yeah.
Would you vote?
I don't know. I think the
I would
only
vote.
candidate, I think the only candidate that would actually get me to go vote right now is Ken Paxton, and Trump won't even endorse him.
Harrison?
Yeah, I'd vote for down ballot.
You'd vote?
People, yeah.
Would you vote?
Of course.
If the
Ab-
midterms were tomorrow?
as many
I know,
times as
a
I
lot of
could.
people say they're not going to.
Yeah. No, of
Yeah.
course I would vote.
I have never, ever voted for a Democrat. I have never missed an election. And there's been plenty of times when I voted for the least worst choice because of what is at stake in the future. And I mean, imagine the Democrats in control of the House and the Senate. And if you think it was bad when Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden were running the show, just imagine what it would be like with Jeffries.
But that's why I ask. We disagree on the subject, but that's why I ask: is unpopular foreign policy worth engaging in to give the Democrats power? Because it looks like that's what's going to happen.
I'm not convinced at this point that the war in Iran is as unpopular as you believe it to be. There's plenty of polling out there that shows it.
That's right.
Well, even if it is popular, has Trump addressed the domestic issues?
Well, that's the bigger question.
We all
and
agree on the domestic.
So, you know, the lack of indictments, the lack of action on draining the swamp are, in my mind, bigger issues than the war in Iran, which right now
I think we
is
agree
going
on that.
well.
Look, when we talk about the popularity of positions, an interesting data point right here in Texas was that 1.9 million Republicans voted for Proposition 10 that simply said Texas should prohibit Sharia law. I personally think that's not a foreign policy issue. I think that's a domestic policy issue as well as one that has international implications. I think it's got the potential to unify people who are seeing what's happening in this country. And at the risk of sounding Islamophobic to some ears, I'm simply telling you that 1.9 million Texans are seeing what's happening in this state and are responding to it by saying...
You really think that can drive success for Republicans?
I do.
You're so out of touch, I'm sorry to say. It's so radically out of touch.
But none of us want Sharia law, Frank.
But
there you go.
Well, you keep saying that. But on the other hand, what we keep hearing is, you can't talk about it, you can't focus on it, you can't...
No, guess what? I'm not in Sharia law. I'm in the Middle East.
One issue.
Yeah, only when
there's other
you're right
issues.
here, my friend. That's my point. What is happening in our country, in part, yes, because Joe Biden left the borders open and imported probably multiple millions of jihadis, and brought in legally about 70 to 100,000 Afghan.
And who's been arrested for opening the border? No one.
Nobody.
And there's the problem.
And nobody.
But we're back
none
in
of
the Middle
people
East.
who have been insinuated into the country, to speak of, have been arrested either.
And so that's the problem.
where
We're back in the Middle East, but we can't get anything
we
done
can get
for us.
deportations if we focus on
That's
larger problems.
not going to happen.
Let's wrap this up similarly to how we started, but I want to give each panelist the opportunity to say something that you respect about the other generation. You have each 1 minute, and we'll start with the millennials, and once again, give the baby boomers the final words.
I just want to start off by saying thank you guys for participating. I love the boomers. My dad's a boomer. I feel like you guys do have, America First policies. We disagree on foreign policy, but at the end of the day, we're not all going to agree on everything. So I do want to say, thank you guys for, especially my dad, helping me. My dad was a good dad, and I think there's a different cultural now where parents, especially young parents, are kind of different than old parents, and I think some of the old school techniques need to come back, and we kind of need to go back to these old school ways. And it's kind of sad that we have this new generation where everybody is on their phone, and we feel like we, you know, maybe are entitled to stuff that we didn't work hard for. So at the end of the day, I don't hate the boomers. I think we are just different because we were raised in different eras. So I respect you guys. I love you guys. And, you know, I don't have any beef with the boomers. Love you guys.
Harrison?
Yeah, I agree completely. Obviously, as a conservative, I wish I was one of y'all. I would have loved to grow, you know, be born in the 50s and grow up in that time period. So, you know, I appreciate the boomer mindset, and I wish it was more, or I should say the boomer, I don't know, morality, the fundamentals. I wish we had more young people that inherited that, and of course, always have just respect for your elders anyway. Just like I look at a 20-year-old saying things and I say, son, I'm a 36-year-old father of 3. I just know things that you don't know, okay? And so I recognize that you guys know things we don't know. So I will say, I think we need to be on the same team as boomers. Boomers have most of the resources in this country and still most of the political sway. And I'd love for you guys to get away from the institutional stuff, because I feel like one of the biggest problems is that like you were pointing out, nobody does any organizing, everybody's just saying stuff online. All of the organizations, more or less, are sort of in that more establishment mode, and we need to move away from that and establish our own organizations.
Well, one thing I've always noticed and liked about boomers is you guys are never afraid to debate. You are very, very proud of your stances, and you'll never back down from a debate, and I really love that. I'm somebody that enjoys debate, and so you guys have always sharpened my mind as far as debate is concerned, and that's one thing I think the boomers can definitely own across the entire political spectrum. And of course, you know, boomers are some of my biggest inspirations in life have been boomers. The people that gave me my first breaks in my career, they were boomers. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those breaks from them. And my parents were boomers. And I'm very proud of my parents. They were great parents. They raised me right. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's no doubt that we are a product of the boomers, but like every other younger generation, eventually we're going to butt heads.
Fair enough. George?
Well, what I respect immensely about millennials is their technological savvy, their grasp of technology, their ability to apply it to change minds, to change hearts. And I actively recruit, although I can't pay them what they're worth, younger people to work on my projects in politics. And I want our colleagues here tonight to take their technological prowess and apply it to organizing conservatives to win the midterms.
Karen?
I think there's so much great to be said about the passion of you guys. I don't know that you're necessarily fully representative of millennials in that regard, but your deep concern for the state of the nation, for people versus machine, I think you're on the cusp of that, and there's a lot to be very worried about. Your concern about the global situation, about the state of the country. And I would add your concern for the truth, trying to do as deep dives as possible into things narratives that maybe are false, that we grew up with as givens, but that you're eager and willing to look squarely and wonder if you're being fed the truth or not. I'm also fascinated at how I'm getting a sense of nostalgia that you have for what we had, even though you don't necessarily believe in the conclusions that we've come to, given what we came through. You still have a nostalgia for how we came through it, and that's interesting. We were really provided an upbringing and our early youth and early careers under entirely different circumstances that brought us to the conclusions that we're living in, that we're speaking about today. You're nostalgic for that time that we had during that era. but are drawing different conclusions from it. So it's kind of interesting. So thank you all. It's been really terrific.
Frank.
Well, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning. Generalizing is dangerous, especially on the basis of the sample set that we have here tonight. You guys are very impressive, intellectually articulate, and I think rigorous up to a point. And the point that I hope will be fostered by this experience, and hopefully what others take away from it, is we were sitting in your seats not so long ago. And trust me on this, the generation of which we are a part was mostly very much on the left and very hostile to everything I think we all do agree on here. We came through it. I'd like to think we've learned from it. And I pray to God you guys will learn from us and your own experience as you go through that process of knowing what 20-year-olds don't.
Thank you all for participating, and thank you all at home for watching. This is the first in what will be an ongoing series we do this year on the Great MAGA Divide and our attempt to bring light and hopefully understanding to the situation. Please support the work that we're doing with WalkAway by subscribing to our YouTube channel and click the bell for notifications. Go to our website right now and sign up for our email and our texting list, and donate for the love of God, because it's expensive to do the work that we do and we don't have enough support, and that ain't a lie. So please become a monthly recurring supporter today if you can. Nobody is doing the work that we're doing, and nobody has our track record of getting hundreds of thousands of people to open their minds and see the light and walk away from the radical left. Good night, everybody, and thank you so much for watching.
Josie, who are the war hawks that Trump was supposed to get out? And Lindsey Graham's voted in.
These are
he doesn't
no, these
count.
are people within the DOJ, within the administration, the swamp that we've all been talking about. Do you want me to like name their names? Yeah. I don't know. They're the swamp. The guy with the hat that talked on the screen that said, I can't do anything because the swamp runs too...
John Gross.
Yes, thank you. The swamp runs too deep. I can't do anything here, so I have to quit. And everybody's like, yeah, good. And then Linda's like, well, what are their names, Josie? Like, are you kidding me?
This is not a quagmire.
Oh, boy.
If this becomes a war, then I'm off the Trump train. If
How
we
is
do
it?
something
What
stupid,
okay, what are
like,
the metrics?
You fucking give me a chance.
But what are the metrics of a war, Gavin?
I'm not talking if you interrupt me again.
Well, you can't just say...
Yes, I can! Of course I can!
This is amazing. See, actually, this is a very pivotal moment. This is where MAGA is out.
Hold on. You don't
defend Epstein. The stage is yours.
I don't know why you unfollowed me, because I corrected you and run facts about Epstein, and you got upset.
No, actually, you unfollowed me because you tried to blackmail me. Yeah, you did. You tried to blackmail me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I tried to blackmail you after.
Wait, are you admitting you blackmailed her?
Yeah, she did.
Absolutely, I am. You think Mossad is bad? I'm fucking worse.